Right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our latest episode of Every Company Has a Story. I'm Krista Linnell, the Head of Marketing for Comtech Translations, and I'm joined today by Michelle Hazelton from Anders Pink. Morning, Michelle.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me. I'm good, thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, Managing Director of Anders Pink, can you remind myself and our audience today, what is it exactly that Anders Pink does?
Yeah, well, we've kind of evolved actually over the last couple of years. So I think if you've heard of Anders Pink, you've probably heard of us before our web curation product. So a few years ago, Anders Pink released more of a B2C type tool, which was for curation for people that are perhaps in like higher education roles or research roles, something where they needed to stay up to date with anything that was published online, but it wasn't influenced by a search engine optimization ranking methodology, because of course that doesn't actually apply and isn't relevant to someone who wants to learn something necessarily. They have different data points, like how many times does a keyword appear, how long has a domain been online for, those kinds of things, which aren't necessarily relevant for actually learning information about a topic or a niche topic. So actually very quickly the co-founders realized that there was a much better use case for curation from the web, as it was known back then, and that's when we started to talk more to platform vendors, learning content providers, those sorts of people on actually how can we work together as partners to bring the content that the providers, the learning content providers create, and the web content together to provide a kind of more cohesive learning content offering. And that's really how we've grown over the last few years. And from there, in actual fact, the whole skills story came to light, and there was a need for organizations to adopt more of a skills-based approach within their organizations as the new currency of business, and therefore there was a need to start to map that content to skills. So we moved into the kind of the mapping technology, because there was definitely a gap there. Not many organizations are doing that at the moment, and not many vendors are doing that, should I say. So therefore we built the skills mapping tool. And then the evolution from there was actually, people were asking, what, the web curation is great, but what about all the rest of our stuff? We really like the way Anders Pink curates content specifically for learning from the web, but we want to apply that across our other libraries. So this could be content that they have created themselves internally, content that they buy, or content that's created by their users. So what we did was we built a tool that effectively indexed everything a company owns or everything a content provider has within their library. So you can search over all of it using a Google-like search, and you can map it to skills. But the important point about the skills actually is worth mentioning, Krista, is that we map to any skills taxonomy. We don't dictate to the client or the content provider, you should be mapping to a particular taxonomy. You can use whatever you like.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing thing to be able to do. So then to the title of the session, extending global reach. How would you do that with content and these searches that you've sort of developed?
Yeah, good question. So what we've done previously, and with your team in actual fact, is we've enabled the curation of not just English content, but content within other languages. So we kind of picked off the common European languages to start with, and then we extended that out a little bit further, because we were having a lot of requests from organizations to curate content in their team's native language. So one of our kind of primary use cases and best use cases for curation from the web is to keep teams up to date with the latest developments within a sector, for example. So if I can use one of our customers as an example, Capgemini, they have sector specific teams, and in order to stay current and to be the expert in the room, if you like, with their customers, they need to know what is happening in that sector every day and stay on top of it. So rather than many people within the Capgemini industry teams all Googling the same stuff and looking at the same stuff ranked based on SEO optimization, they use Anders Pink to feed that into one tool, their learning experience platform, and that everybody goes to that one place to stay up to date. So then they said to us, actually, you know, we've got teams in France and Germany and Spain who also need to stay up to date, but with their local markets, the local industries to their countries. So can you curate that content in Spanish and French and English, in German and so on? So that's when we came to you guys, in actual fact, and started our translation project. And the steps to undertake that really were finding someone who was native, which you obviously helped us with. And then we looked at, right, what is the kind of topics or industries that organizations like Capgemini want to curate content on? So we looked at the keywords that we would use to search in Anders Pink to find that content. So they were all part of the translation. But then crucially, it's where that content comes from that's really important. So we needed that high quality list of domains that we could then go out and crawl the web to find that content from. And you really need a native expert who knows this website is good, this one is not good for maybe political reasons or something along those lines.
Perfect. So for the projects that you've mentioned with like Capgemini, what would the process and parameters look like, you know, in a little bit more detail? Do you think, would you be able to sort of tell me more about that? I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, sure. So essentially we work with the SMEs on the customer side of things to really kind of drill down on what are the specifics of the content that you're looking for. And then from that, we can draw out the key search terms, and then we can map those to the websites that we curate the content from. And that's where the Anders Pink tech comes in. So, you know, overlaid with the expertise of the SMEs from the business, the translators from the Comtech team, and then the technology of Anders Pink, we can then bring that all together to be crawling on a daily basis, all of these foreign language sites, to curate that content into the Anders Pink app, which then pushes that content into the learning management system or experience platform, where the learners themselves, the end users, will consume that platform, that content, sorry.
Perfect. And so how would success be judged for that kind of project? Could you do all the analytics following, you know, studying who's looking at the content, how they're interacting with it?
Yeah, so we don't collect analytics on individuals. Anders Pink gives a kind of bird's eye view, so that those analytics sit within the learning platform that the learner is accessing the content from. But what we have within Anders Pink is clicks. So the way that the content is organized in Anders Pink is either in a briefing or a curation. So a briefing is a collection of articles from the web, which could include video, audio, podcasts. So that's the freemium content. And then in our new product, Complete Curation, we have curations, which are collections of learning objects, which could be from the web, but they're also from indexes that the customer owns themselves and just curates from within the Complete Curation app. So success for us would be essentially lots of clicks on articles. So if people are consuming lots of content from those briefings or from those curations, then we can see that actually they're coming back and they're looking for more, and it's of interest to them, and it's providing the information they need. Now, if you flip that over into more of a customer model, like Miss Customer, how do you see success from your team? I would expect to see the level of conversations improving that they're having internally and externally, their knowledge improving, them staying up to date, less of a need to go out and Google stuff independently because it's all being provided efficiently and quickly within other platforms.
Perfect. So how do you see curation helping to overcome the challenges within L&D functions, would you say?
So if I think about that in today's terms, I can break that down into a few different areas in actual fact. So what we hear from organisations is that, you know, they have requests. So the learning and development team have requests from the business to create learning pathways or learning plans which effectively map to a curriculum. So if you imagine, say, you know, you have a sales team and you want to teach them about all of the skills that are required to be an effective salesperson, it might be something like resilience, communication skills, effective listening or active listening, you know, so they're the sub skills that sit within a curriculum or a playlist. And what they're saying is that, you know, we've got all this great content, but we do know there is some gaps in this content. So we need to be able to find what we've got and fill those gaps with web content. So if they're doing that manually, actually, it's really, really time consuming and, you know, a bit of a painful process that I can't imagine anyone wanting to do on a full-time basis. Yeah. And that's where, you know, this new product, Complete Curation, really helps save them a massive amount of time and helps them respond very, very quickly to the needs of the business, as well as adhering to the whole skills-based organisation strategy that many of these organisations are moving into at the moment, because the learning platforms are supporting skills searching and certification based on skills. So they need to be able to curate based on skills, but also curate using like a Google-like search. So using a phrase or a question or a sentence to get the best set of results, get those results, curate them together, fill any gaps with the web content, and then tag everything with skills to then push it back into the learning platforms.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand. Okay. So what are the opportunities, would you say, within L&D for using Anders Pink? So
I would say probably one of the biggest opportunities is the ability to curate across multiple languages using one system. So in the new system, you can, let's say your L&D team is predominantly English speaking, you can curate in English, you can search in English and show results across different languages. And then of course you'd need a native speaker to verify those results within a collection of learning objects. So that's one massive opportunity. But speed and breadth of search results are another massive benefit of using a tool for automation of curation end to end. So when I say end to end, what that means is, you know, they've got libraries that could be across different platforms, or they might have metadata for learning assets in spreadsheets. And people tell us the way we do it now manually is we go to these spreadsheets or we log on to all these separate platforms and we do separate searches, and then we, you know, make a note of where they are and what they are, and we build that up over time. And then we go to our learning platform and we manually search for this stuff or add the content that's missing or go to the web and get those links. And we're saying you don't need to do any of that. In actual fact, you plug in all of your libraries, and if you can do this via APIs, then all the better. Because if your external content provider gives you an API, we will always have the latest version of all the available content. Do your one search in one platform, Complete Curation, curate all of your content into curations, and then through an integration with your learning platform, just push that in as a playlist or a plan or a pathway, depending on what's supported in your learning platform, and make that available for the end users. And the bit that's coming up, which is in demand, massive demand by our customers, is once you've created all these amazingly curated pathways within a learning platform, well, then they need to be maintained. So currently they're maintained by a human going in and making adjustments, So maybe the content provider has said, we've expired a course, you know, we've retired one, or we've updated it. It's got some critical policy information. So you need to update all of the courses on your within playlists on your learning platform. That's a manual task. And you can imagine in the big organizations, that takes a really long time. Well, Complete Curation in the future will offer an automated option or a flagging option to say, this course has changed and it's in these playlists on your learning platform. What would you like to do? Update it, replace it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So the time saving and the ability to respond quickly to the needs of the business for learning needs of their people, whether it be curriculum based, skills based, topic based, it really doesn't matter to Anders Pink, then that's the massive time saving and cost saving that people can make through curation and automation.
Yeah. Is that the number one challenge, you would say, that the companies who first engage with you, that the symptom they're presenting, that they haven't got time to do it? Or is there another struggle that initiates them coming to Anders Pink?
I think that's the pain of doing it in a manual way is definitely the number one, and then the additional benefits of, so when you have someone who's manually curating from multiple platforms or spreadsheets, what typically happens is they don't consume, or they don't look across the breadth of the available content. So they'll have people have favorites of, oh, you want an unconscious bias course? Oh, I've seen that one by that provider, but maybe there's other ones from other providers that they should also be considering in the mix, or maybe they should be going out to the web and looking across different languages, or so what this enables them to do is, because a machine is doing that heavy lifting of looking at the index of content in its entirety and only presenting the best and closest matching results back to the human curator, they can then use their expertise as a human to make a more sensible assessment of, out of everything, I've got a set of 5 results plus 3 articles. Which one now, with my expertise as an instructional designer or a learning designer or curator, do I think I should include in that curation?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I've seen in the press and in the media that Anders Pink is now part of Go One.
Yes, we are.
So what does that mean for you guys?
Well, not a whole lot right now, because we're operating as we were. So very slowly we are starting to talk more to the Go One partnership team and to the enterprise teams, and also of course the product teams, because they are very interested in adopting what we do and integrating that into the wider Go One offering. But for the time being, that's a slow process and will be integrated over time. So for our existing customers and partners, in actual fact, everything just stays the same, and they get to benefit from us being part of a bigger group on a longer term basis. So perhaps they have needs for courses, a breadth, a premium library with a breadth of courses that covers many skills and many topics, and of course now that can form part of the offer should they wish to look into that or adopt that. But as I say, for the time being, we're pretty much operating as we were.
Yeah, perfect. And is there any change for your customers?
Only in that we're being introduced to lots of Go One customers because they're very interested in advanced curation and skills mapping. So I see some rapid growth over the next year or so, with the joining of the 2 organisations.
Oh, perfect. So that was all of my questions. I don't know if there's any other questions from the floor at all. Any questions for Michelle on how you extend global reach with content creation, or just about Anders Pink in general? I know Michelle would be more than happy to answer. If you use the Q&A functionality, please feel free. I would say, while the audience sort of think about any questions that they may ask Michelle, we were talking before we started the call that you are going to World of Learning in May.
Learning Technologies.
Learning Technologies, apologies.
Yes, that's right. I think World of Learning just happened. It's easy.
Yeah, that was, of course it did. It's still in my head. Yeah, Learning Technologies. So Michelle will be there in May. So Elena's asked a question. Hello, you mentioned earlier that there are different formats that the tool picks up, podcasts. Are you seeing a divergence in mixed media?
That's a really good question, actually, because video has always been seen as being the preferred option. Well, not always, sorry, in the last few years, the preferred option. But I think there's a bit of video fatigue, or certainly Zoom fatigue from lots of people. So actually we're seeing that audio is becoming quite popular for curation. So and this, I'm talking about the web curation specifically here. So we have actually built, so this is due to be released in a few months' time. We've built the capability to crawl all of the podcast publisher aggregation publisher sites. So what we'll effectively be able to do is when you create a briefing, so a collection of learning objects in Anders Pink, what you'll be able to do is specify only show me audio or podcasts, and we'll search those aggregators of podcasts like Apple, and there's various other ones, to show you the results for that. So you can build briefings specifically on audio or video or articles as well. But because we were seeing a demand for that, we have built a feature especially for that.
Oh wow, that's so cool. So and can you respond to the market quite quickly then, like with kind of different formats and media that comes up? How quickly can you respond to how people want to consume?
No, it's a good question. So we're just actually exploring ChatGPT, like probably everybody is right now.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And we're very cognizant of not using it as a knowledge pool to present knowledge to learners, right? Because obviously there's a lot of controversy around that. There's issues around ethics and whatnot. So I think until it's been around for a lot longer and a lot more tried and tested, that is not our intention. However, it's really, really useful for breaking down a workflow of perhaps something that a curator would do. So for example, earlier on I talked about building out a pathway for a salesperson for them to acquire the necessary skills to become a well-rounded salesperson. Yeah. So we can use ChatGPT, for example, to help us determine what are the sub skills or what are the skills associated with the job role, salesperson or business development person or something like that. So we can go out, get the latest results for what that job role entails, then use that to search across the index of content and the web for articles for learning content that maps to the list of skills that ChatGPT has given us for the job role, business development or salesperson. So if effectively what we're looking to do is not just give people a really good search to search across the web and their index of content wherever it may come from, we're also building in a much more intuitive workflow whereby you kind of act as a learning designer or instructional designer to put together a really nice, sensible collection of learning objects in more of a flow of a pathway, a learning pathway with introductory text, different learning assets, break it down by, maybe a 4-week course where they've got 2 hours per week to learn and those sorts of things. We're just exploring all those options at the moment. And we've got a couple of customers who are wanting to partner with us to develop that out. So it just really brings us on a massive leap forward from the user experience that we've developed for the initial version of our complete curation product into more of this whole kind of AI experience, if you like. So we're not just using AI to recommend the content, we're using AI to build out all of the supporting text that can then get added to the learning platform for the user to consume as well.
Yeah, I imagine that your product department is very, very busy.
Yes. And because we're a small team, although we're part of Go One, the Anders Pink product and development team are still working independently at the moment, which means we can be really agile, so that's an advantage at the moment.
Yeah, I bet. Any other questions from the floor for Michelle while we're still here? And if not, I think that's everything for me. Anything else from you, Michelle?
No, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Oh no, it's been lovely to chat to you. I think it's such a fascinating proposition that you have with Anders Pink, and we're always delighted to support you with your projects. But yeah, I can see a really exciting time ahead for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Take care. Bye.